Tonight we're going to tie a pattern that is part of the FFI Bronze Level. Um, this is called the Orange Partridge Soft Hackle. It is one of the 5 required flies. We're going to go through tying the process and some tips and tricks to get it correct so you'll have a successful evaluation. Some of the things that we're going to look for is the body needs to start between the barb and the point of the hook. So it should start somewhere in between the barb and the point of the hook. The body should have just a very slight taper moving up towards the eye. There should be 4 to 5 evenly spaced wraps of ribbing starting on the bottom of the hook shank. There should be a sparse dubbing ball of hare's ear dubbing right behind the wing, the hackle, and then your wing is 2 to 2.5 turns of partridge. The eye should be no bigger than the head should be no bigger than the eye of the hook. All right, let's look at the materials. So for this, I'm using a 12-aught Semperfli thread in orange. For the body, I'm going to use a Unifloss in orange. For the ribbing, I'm using a fine gold wire. For the dubbing ball, I'm using some natural hare's ear dubbing. And for the wing, I'm using, this is a partridge skin. More specifically, I'm using the gray feathers that are up towards the head of the skin. We want to select a feather that is going to extend not much further, if at all, past the point of the hook. So let's start tying this pattern. All right, we're going to take our hook out of the vise. I'm going to insert a size 10 wet fly hook. The only really difference between a wet fly hook and a dry fly hook is just the gauge of the wire. A wet fly hook is a little bit heavier gauge. If you don't have a wet fly hook and you have a size 10 dry fly hook, I would be okay with that. I think that would be appropriate to use. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start our thread right behind the eye, leaving just a little space, and we're going to make nice touching even wraps all the way back until we get the beginning of our body, the point between the barb and the hook point. We want a nice even underbody that doesn't have a lot of lumps, bumps. So that's a good starting point. As you can see, we are there's the barb, there's the hook point. We're pretty much right in the middle. So now we're going to move back about 3/4 up the body. We're going to take our ribbing. Now the ribbing has to start when we rib the fly. It has to start from the bottom of the hook shank. So we're going to go ahead and tie that right in at the bottom. We're going to spin our thread counterclockwise to flatten it so it jumps towards your material as opposed to away from material. We're going to put this in at the bottom. We're going to take a wrap and we're going to start wrapping back. And as we do, we're going to hold that wire right at the bottom. Hold it exactly where we want that ribbing to start. And we're going to come right up to the end of our underbody. And we're going to come back up to the front. Nice touching wraps. Take your time all the way up. And then there should be a slight taper to it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually just wrap back about halfway. And then I'm going to come back up. And that's going to give just a slight taper, just enough that you'll be able to see that. All right, now we're going to tie in our body, our floss. I tend to tie my floss in at the front, And then I double wrap my floss. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. We'll spin our thread counterclockwise to flatten it. Once again, we'll take a jump back. If you don't want to do that and you want to tie it in and tie it all the way down and just make one layer, that's fine. Now I'm flattening my, to the best I can, I'm flattening that floss and I'm wrapping back, touching turns as I go back, trying to keep it as smooth as possible with very little buildup. Take your time with this. When we get to the end, we're going to make sure we come right up to the end of our thread wraps. Then we're going to change directions and we're just going to move up the hook shank towards the eye. Same thing, same nice even spacing. If you happen to overwrap and you get a little bit of a lump, just reverse it and fix it. Don't be in a hurry. All right, we're going to come up. Now we're going to tie that off and trim out our floss. Straggler there. There we go. Okay. Couple wraps to lock that in place. Now we're going to do our ribbing. Again, our ribbing should originate from the bottom. We're going to come up equal turns, 4 to 5 evenly spaced turns. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to put this fifth one in. It may not be seen, but that's okay. And then I'll come up and I'll tie that in. And I see my spacing just isn't quite right. Just a little bit off in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm just going to fix that. So those are good. That looks better. All right, there we go. Come in, come up, we'll tie that off. And then we'll bring that up and we'll helicopter it out. All right. Fix the hook there. All right, we're gonna take our dubbing. Our hairs are dubbing. And we're gonna just loosely we don't want like threads, or I mean dubbing, to stick out everywhere alongside of the thread. We want to wrap it fairly loose, but still we want it to bond to the thread. So just use small amounts at a time and come down. We can always add more. And we're gonna come back here. We're gonna leave about an eye length behind the eye, and then we're just gonna dub a dubbing ball. We'll end up covering that fifth wrap of ribbing, but that's okay. We have 4. So if we have 4 in this one, then we need to have 4 in every one. Just a little bit more. We want it sparse, but yet we want it a visible dubbing ball also. All right, so then we come back up. We'll pull some of that up, and then we're just gonna tie that off, and I got a chunk there. There we go. Now, if you wanted to, you could, my vices. If you wanted to, you could take a little bit of Velcro and brush that out, but I think it's good. I think it's fine. Last thing we need to do is add our wing. This is our partridge feather here that we selected from the area that I showed you. Now, how we prepare it is we're going to tie this in by the tip. So we're going to grab the tip and we're going to stroke these feathers back until almost looks like an arrow. And then we have this still the tip left. So we're just going to actually trim that tip so it has a little bit of a triangle in the front. And that's going to be our tie-in point. All right, we're going to bring that triangle up into our tie-in area. We're going to take a loose wrap, then we're going to lock it in place with several 4 or 5 tighter wraps, and then we're going to work our way up to right behind that dubbing ball. Now, it doesn't look like we have a lot of space there, but we really do, because we're only going to do a couple turns of hackle. Now, this can be the tricky part because this partridge is very fragile, so you want to take your time, be gentle, don't have heavy hands. Now we're going to take, and I moisten my fingers a little bit. Now I'm going to sweep. I'm going to fold those feathers so they're all facing the direction that I want them. And then I'm going to start wrapping. My first wrap is going to be right in front of the dubbing ball. It's one wrap. And then I come up, and that's all I need. I need about 1.5 wraps is what I used, and that's good enough. We're going to lock that in place. A couple wraps behind, a couple wraps in front, and we're going to carefully trim that out. Now we're going to sweep all that back, and we're going to start forming our head. Our head should only be enough wraps to cover what we need to cover our butt ends from our hackle. Nice thing about this 12-aught thread is you can lay down a few wraps and it's not going to overbulk your head. So there we go. We have our head, a little bit of a, there we go. Just trim that out and we're ready for the whip finish. Our whip finish is going to go from back to front. Again, hold your hackle out of the way. 1, 2, 3. It's all we need. And then we'll tighten that up and we'll trim that out. And when we sweep that back and form that head, that actually puts the wing in the position that we want it. And then that ball of dubbing that we have behind the wing actually causes it to flare out and gives it the look that we need. Now we'll finish it up with a little bit of head cement. Carefully place a drop of head cement on the thread wraps. And I'll do it again on the bottom. Just make sure your thread wraps are completely covered. Last thing I'll do is I will clear my eye just in case I got any head cement in my eye. Now that's the pattern. It's really the hardest part of this pattern is working with the partridge, especially if you don't have experience with it. Just use gentle hands. Don't overwrap it. 1.5 to 2.5 wraps is plenty. When you start seeing a full wing, you want to stop. It should be sparse, but it should be full all the way around, but you should be able to see through it. Make sure that your body starts between the point and the barb. You want 4 to 5 equal spaced wraps of the gold wire. The dubbing ball should be loosely tied in and just enough to see the ball behind the wing. And then we talked about the wing and the head. The head should be no bigger than the eye of the hook. That's the pattern. Again, tie several of these, tie half a dozen, tie a dozen, whatever it takes. Select the 3 that you feel are the most identical and meet the requirements of the pattern. Review the tying instructions and review the evaluator's notes to see exactly what they're looking for. If you do that and you take your time, you shouldn't have any trouble. All right, that's all I have. If you have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments. Otherwise, have a good night.